he had a little book open in his hand, a little sefer, or a scroll. He had a little scroll open in his hand. And he said his right foot on the sea and his left foot on the land. This is very similar to what we read in Daniel. Let's go to Daniel 12. In Daniel 12, I will read like super quick. At that time, Michael shall stand up, and that confirms, well, I haven't read the part that I want to read, but my point is that the whole chapter begins with the fact that Michael must stand up on this earth, meaning he must manifest on this earth as a man. And that is what will happen on Revelation 11, for which we are being prepared on Revelation 10. So at that time Michael shall stand up, the great prince, who stands watch over the sons of your people, the great prince, because he will become the great king. Yahushua came as the great priest, Kohen Gadol, the high priest. So the last comes as the great prince because he will become the great king by becoming one with Yahushua and therefore with the Father. So the great prince who stands watch over the sons of your people, and there shall be a time of trouble, the tribulation, such as never was since there was a nation, the worst time ever, even to that time. So even to our generation, it'll be the worst time. So even though we are in the worst generation of all, what is coming is worse than anything we have lived or seen in the past. And at that time your people shall be delivered, everyone who is found written in the book. Look how we just started the first verse mentioning Michael, and now it mentions a book. In Revelation, when it starts, well, Revelation 5, we see that the Lamb has the book, is given to him because he is the only one that can open the book of life. And that book has 7 seals. When he opens the first seal is when the second coming starts, the second manifestation of Yahweh on this earth. When he opens the first seal is when Michael stands up. So when the Lamb is starting to open, starts to open the book, Michael reveals himself on this earth as one of the 2 witnesses. He won't say he's Michael. I'm just saying he will manifest on this earth. He will stand up. So we see that by the first seal, the Lamb is opening that book. On the first trumpet, we see that the Lamb finished opening the book because the last seal are the 7 trumpets. So when we get to the first trumpet, he already opened the book completely. But before the 7th seal, before the 7th trumpet, we see Michael with a scroll, with a book. So my point is that there are several connections with the seals, the trumpets, Messiah, and Michael, both having a book, as in Yahushua being the word and Michael the one who reveals what that word is. That's why he is the voice. As in the wisdom, somebody might get some wisdom but he may not understand it, so it's as hearing another language other than the one you speak. So the Messiah brought the wisdom, but the last must bring understanding. That's why the difference between the light and the rainbow, separating the light so that we may see all the colors and understand it better. So they both have a book. Here we see that in Daniel 12 starts speaking about Michael, and that same verse says, and at that time your people shall be delivered, everyone who is found written in the book. What book? The book of life, which the Messiah will begin to open. And when he does start to open that book, Michael will stand up. My point is how everything is connected. I just want to make that clear, but that wasn't even the part I wanted to show. So I'll continue. In verse 4 says, but you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. So just like the Almighty sealed the book of life, and only the Messiah who died for our sins can open it, and he will do it and is about to, the Almighty is telling Daniel to seal his own book. And pretty much the point of that sentence is that the Almighty wouldn't give understanding of the book of Daniel until the end would come, and then everything would be understood. So the book of Daniel was sealed so that people wouldn't understand it. And that is one of the reasons why when the Messiah came, they didn't recognize him. For Daniel, in Daniel 9, said the year when he would appear and the fact that he would have to die. Daniel wrote that the Messiah would appear, he would be killed, and then the temple would be destroyed. And that's the order in which everything happened. Yet still people won't accept it, Jewish people. So the Almighty told him to shut up the words so that people wouldn't get it, and seal the book until the time of the end, our time. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase as it has, exponentially. Well, it depends on people also, because just as knowledge, or the possibility for us to acquire knowledge, has increased, sadly people, because of that possibility, have pretty much rejected it, knowing that it is available. They don't like, it is not like back in the day when people would make an effort to learn stuff. Nowadays people don't really care about learning, because they know that anytime they want, they can go and access a certain type of information. So since they can access it anytime through their phone, they don't really work to know it, and therefore they don't have it in their heads, they don't have it in their minds, and that becomes an issue, because that's why we see so many people who well, just like Hosea 4:6 says, for lack of knowledge my people are destroyed. That is amazing, because that is a verse that has been fulfilled many times throughout history, but it will be completely fulfilled in the greatest sense in our time. Yet our time is the time in which knowledge shall increase, and it has, as we know, thankfully, for those who really want knowledge. For we know that knowledge, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding are more valuable than gold and silver. Yet nowadays most people want the gold and silver and don't care at all about knowledge. So even though knowledge has increased, fulfilling this, for lack of knowledge my people are destroyed, fulfilling Hosea. So it seems to be a contradiction, yet for those with eyes to see, we can obviously understand that both verses have been fulfilled. Knowledge has increased. You can look in Google for anything you want and you will receive knowledge of it. Not only that, the Almighty has given us knowledge of things that 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and obviously even more, people could not understand regarding scriptures, regarding the Messiah, his name, the name of the Father, etc. So knowledge has increased, but people reject it. So they will be destroyed for rejecting the knowledge that Yahweh made available. Then it says, then I, Daniel, looked, and there stood two others. So listen to this. The Messiah, before entering the flesh, he appeared to Daniel. He's speaking to Daniel. And then Daniel sees two other people on each side. Just like when the Messiah transfigured. When the transfiguration happened, Moshe and Eliyahu appeared right next to the Messiah, one on each side. The same is what is happening here. So the Messiah appeared, and then the two witnesses appeared. So it says, and there stood two others, one on this riverbank and the other on that riverbank. And one said to the man clothed in linen, who was above the waters of the river, above the waters of the river. The Messiah walked on water. He was above the waters, while the other two were on either side on the riverbank. So one said to the man clothed in linen, who was above the waters of the river, how long shall the fulfillment of these wonders be? Then I heard the man clothed in linen, who was above the waters of the river, and well, is about to say the time. Now, my point is that we see here Messiah above the water, and then the two witnesses on each riverbank. Now that the Messiah has appeared already, died and resurrected, is in heaven, about to open the book of life. Now that the two witnesses are about to appear, we read that it says, verse 2 of Revelation 10, he had a little book open in his hand, and he set his right foot on the sea and his left foot on the land. So through Messiah in Daniel, we read about him appearing on a river, which has water that one can drink, as the water of life, Yahushua himself, for the chosen few. But now, the last, represented by Michael, has one foot on the sea, which represents the nations, to whom he comes to speak regarding the plagues that must fulfill, and one foot on the land, representing the believers who are in rebellion, following a false doctrine, and who will have to die in order to be justified. And in order for them to be justified, they first need to hear the two witnesses speak, at least their doctrine. So, and he set his right foot on the sea and his left foot on the land. And like I said, each foot represents one of the witnesses. And cried with a loud voice. So my point is, we saw river in Daniel regarding Messiah as the river of life. Now we see Michael, the last, who comes with two portions as the firstborn, with two mantles, as we see in Isaiah 42 and other parts of scriptures. And that is why he has one foot on the land, one foot on the sea. So the Messiah will be over the chosen few who have accepted the river, the water of life. The last will be over the many and the nations, in the sense of ruling over them. Obviously, the Messiah is the one who rules everything, but that ruleship was given to the chosen few who believe in him. And of those chosen few, Yahweh sets up the last as leader. So even though the Messiah, like I said, is the one above the few, and the last, the one above the many and the nations, when the first and last become one, he will be above everything. I'm just separating it so that we may understand it according to both manifestations.